than 30 minutes. Poof, a sitting president just gone. Vanished from his own fortified compound right in the middle of his capital city. I mean, how is that even possible? Well, let's get into it. It's Operation Absolute Resolve, and trust me, it plays out like something straight out of a movie. Okay, here's the timeline. 0200 hours, the entire city of Caracas goes dark. I mean, electronically silent. Cyber Command just blinded the regime's eyes and ears. 15 minutes pass, boom. Precision strikes take out their big guns, the Russian S-300 missile shield. It's useless. By 025, Delta Force, I mean, these guys are like ghosts. They're already inside Fuerte Tiuna, the military heart of Venezuela. And then just 5 minutes later, it's done. Game over. President Nicolás Maduro is in custody. It was an absolute masterclass in modern warfare. So who pulls off a mission like this? Only the best of the best. You've got the legendary Night Stalkers piloting the helos, and of course, Delta Force, the very tip of the spear kicking in the doors. Maduro was just whisked away, put on a chopper, and flown out to the USS Iwo Jima, sitting there waiting in the Caribbean. I mean, talk about a swift, brutally efficient operation. All right, so who was this guy? His story doesn't start in some fancy military academy or political dynasty. Nope. It starts behind the wheel of a city bus. He was a bus driver, a union guy, a true believer who got noticed by the larger-than-life Hugo Chavez. He was loyal, that was his thing. And when Chavez died, Maduro was his hand-picked successor. The problem was Maduro had none of his mentor's charisma. So how did he hold on to power? With an iron fist. He just dismantled anyone and everyone who stood in his way. And what was the result of his decade in power? Well, look at this. It was a total disaster. The economy went to an absolute freefall. The country's infrastructure just crumbled. And it created a humanitarian crisis so bad that nearly 8 million people, that's a quarter of the entire population, fled the country, just packed up and left. This is what Venezuela looks like right before the raid. How on earth does the United States justify an operation of this scale? I mean, taking out a sitting president? Well, from Washington's point of view, this wasn't an act of war. No. It was, and I'm quoting them here, a long overdue law enforcement action. And that whole justification, it all hangs on this one term, the Cartel of the Suns. Sounds dramatic, right? Well, the name literally comes from the little sun insignias on the uniforms of Venezuelan generals. The U.S. government's claim is that these guys weren't just soldiers. They were the board of directors for a giant criminal enterprise that had basically turned the entire country into their personal narco-trafficking hub. Now, this wasn't some new idea. The legal groundwork was actually laid years ago, back in 2020 with a major indictment. And the charges, they are heavy. We're talking narco-terrorism conspiracy to import cocaine, using machine guns to protect drug shipments, and even an alliance with Colombian FARC rebels to, and this is a direct quote, flood the U.S. with cocaine. So here's the key takeaway. In the eyes of American law, Maduro wasn't treated as a president. He was a wanted drug kingpin. But to look a little closer, beyond all the legal documents, a much bigger, much more complicated geopolitical game starts to come into focus. And here it is, laid out plain and simple. You've got the official reason, and then you have the geopolitical reasons. On one side, it's we're just enforcing a 6-year-old warrant. On the other side, it's a massive, high-stakes play to secure the world's biggest oil reserves and, at the same time, find a radical fix for a migrant crisis. Let's dig into that. First, let's talk about the prize, and what's a prize it is. Over 300 billion barrels of proven oil reserves. That's the largest on the entire planet. We're talking more than Saudi Arabia. Under Maduro, production had completely collapsed. So for Washington, you can see the logic, right? A friendly government in Caracas means you secured this massive, stable source of energy, and it's right in your own backyard. And look, you don't even have to read between the lines on this one. Right after the raid, President Trump basically said the quiet part out loud in a press conference. He said, "We're going to bring in our great companies to fix the badly broken infrastructure, and we will get the oil flowing again." I mean, you can't get a more direct statement of economic motive than that. Then there's the other big driver here, immigration. The administration was making a direct link between the chaos in Venezuela and the crisis happening at the U.S. border. The thinking was pretty straightforward, really. If you remove the dictator, you can stabilize the country. And if you stabilize the country, the massive flow of migrants will stop. It's basically using foreign policy to solve a huge domestic headache. Okay, story, believe me, is far from over. And their reactions, they were instant, and they were completely split down the middle. Inside Venezuela, you had the opposition celebrating, saying the hour of freedom has arrived, while the regime was screaming this is an illegal kidnapping. And around the world, the geopolitical fault lines cracked wide open. U.S. allies were kind of cautiously supportive, but Russia and China, they came out swinging, condemning it as imperialist aggression. The world was instantly divided. And all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. A dictator is gone, but is Venezuela free? Operation Absolute Resolve was a success in one sense. It removed one man from power. But can a special forces raid, no matter how precise, really fix a system that's so deeply broken? Does getting rid of one leader automatically set a nation free? That, right now, is the question the entire world is asking.